Harvard, Purdue, and Ohio State. What do these schools have in common? Well, alongside many others, they will all be reinstating their testing requirements come fall of 2026. Previously, these schools practiced the test optional policy, which allowed students to exclude their SAT and ACT scores on their applications. The policy was implemented at hundreds of schools during and after the COVID-19 pandemic, primarily because standardized testing became difficult to administer safely. Therefore, to understand how the reinstated testing requirement impacts students, we spoke to the college and career counselors as well as current seniors.
If a student knows that most of the colleges they're applying to aren't going to require standardized testing, they may not shift a whole lot than they would have naturally. But if students are looking at schools that now do require the SATs or the ACTs, I think that may lead to a little bit more focus in that as part of their process.
We do recommend that if you're going to be applying to college that you attempt the SAT or ACT, and going into it knowing that still it's fairly low stakes testing. And the reason for that is because we can still put together a great list of colleges for the majority of students that don't require testing.
At North, students have access to free testing resources such as prep books and tutoring. However, thousands across Massachusetts lack the same materials.
You know, there is research that shows that students who get formal test prep tend to do better. And yeah, it's completely unfair for students who cannot afford or don't have access to those resources.
Testing requirements are set to be reinstated next year, which means that current seniors still have the option to omit their test scores at most colleges. Ellie Marchessault and Jules Jaffe are two seniors who chose to go test optional in their college applications.
I originally wanted to have my test scores as part of my application, but I personally did not have tutoring for any tests I was taking. I was scared because I wasn't submitting it, and I knew a lot of people that were submitting theirs.
Despite these worries, the test optional policy also allows students to hone other aspects of their application.
Now, looking back at it, I'm totally okay with it, and I definitely think it gave me room to just write all my essays, write all my supplements, and to mention the fact that I do self-study.
I would say that a lot of times in school, my work shows more of who I am as a student. And when thinking about if I wanted to submit my test scores like ACT or SAT, I didn't feel like it would accurately really reflect who I am as a student. They were going to see my grades, and then they were going to see what my teachers thought of me and what I think of myself with my essays.
As shown by Ellie and Jules, the test optional policy has been a valuable way for students to highlight their academics and personal stories rather than test scores.
I think it is unfair to judge a student based on what they can do for 4 hours on a Saturday morning. And I do think, especially working with our Newton North students who are truly exceptional, I would love for the colleges to just place all their weight on what you're doing in the classroom here and not just on a test.
For the update, this is William Yawns.